History remembers the Great Wall of China, yet India once had a 4,000-kilometer barrier built entirely of living thorns. Unlike traditional fortifications made of stone or brick, this impenetrable thicket of aggressive vegetation stretched across the subcontinent. It required a permanent garrison of thousands of guards to patrol its perimeter day and night. Despite dictating the lives of millions under colonial rule, almost no physical trace of it remains today. A massive geographical divide simply vanished from the landscape and modern memory. To understand why it was built, we have to look at the commodity it was designed to cage: salt. In the extreme heat of the Indian subcontinent, salt is an absolute biological necessity to survive. For generations, local populations freely harvested their own salt from natural coastal beds, inland lakes, and ancient mineral deposits. It was as accessible as the air they breathed. By growing this barrier, colonial administrators successfully turned human biology into a mechanism for extraction, seizing control of a natural resource essential for life. Following the Battle of Plassey, the British East India Company rapidly expanded its territorial control across the subcontinent. Looking at this vintage 1855 map of British India, you can see the vast regional territories under colonial rule. Administrators realized that since everyone requires salt to live, monopolizing and taxing it across these regions would guarantee an inescapable, continuous revenue stream. The immediate result was severe inflation on a dietary staple. For the common laborers and poorest citizens, the tax artificially inflated the cost of survival, turning a basic human necessity into an unbearable financial burden. Facing starvation and severe health risks, the population reacted out of necessity. They bypassed the customs checkpoints, actively smuggling untaxed, cheaper salt from neighboring independent regions. Written laws and paper tariffs hold no weight against biological desperation. To plug this massive economic leak, the British colonial administration decided they urgently needed a physical, insurmountable obstacle. The British abandoned the idea of scattered stone forts and instead conceived the Inland Customs Line, a continuous, living barricade designed to physically divide the continent. The initial blueprint anchored the system in the Punjab region, charting a rigid path intended to cut directly across the Indian subcontinent. From that starting point, the barrier was grown and cultivated outward, extending far to the east until it spanned approximately 4,000 kilometers. To achieve a formidable height of 10 to 14 feet, colonial engineers utilized the local flora, planting thousands of babul trees to serve as the rigid, structural foundation of the wall. Any gaps between these trees were aggressively packed. Cultivators layered in fast-growing Indian plum bushes and stacked massive volumes of dead, thorny branches to bulk up the lower levels. This extreme density created a tangled, aggressive thicket. It was completely impassable for humans carrying cargo, and it even stopped local wildlife in its tracks. Colonial engineers effectively turned the native landscape against its own people, weaponizing local botany to grow a towering geographical cage. Growing the barrier was only the first step. Operating it required a vast bureaucratic machine, anchored by hundreds of customs outposts and fortified checking stations scattered along the line. Historical records indicate that over 12,000 guards, inspectors, and laborers were permanently stationed to maintain and patrol this botanical border. For those living nearby, this meant living under constant surveillance. Citizens crossing the line were subjected to rigorous daily physical inspections to ensure no untaxed salt slipped through the foliage. The economic strangulation worked, but the biological toll was devastating. Cut off from natural supplies and unable to afford the tax, the poorest communities were forced to drastically and dangerously reduce their salt intake. The Great Hedge proved to be a highly effective instrument of colonial oppression. It successfully stabilized imperial revenue by enforcing widespread poverty and malnutrition. By the late 1870s, the sheer expense of watering and trimming 4,000 kilometers of living vegetation had become unsustainable. Furthermore, a barrier of this magnitude had started suffocating broader regional trade, causing the British to officially abandon the Inland Customs Line. Once officially abandoned, the massive vegetation dried up, was chopped down for firewood, or simply disappeared back into nature. Within just a few decades, one of the largest continuous man-made structures on Earth vanished completely from the landscape. The structure remained largely forgotten until the modern era, when author Roy Moxham stumbled upon a brief, obscure reference to the Great Hedge hidden in colonial archives. Determined to find proof, Moxham traveled to India. He spent years cross-referencing old maps, reading through forgotten administrative records, and tracking down local oral histories. His exhaustive search did eventually yield results. He managed to locate a few tiny surviving remnants of the massive barrier, finally confirming the physical existence of the forgotten barricade. The hedge was abandoned as a logistical failure, a system too costly to maintain and too restrictive for trade. It was erased by the same colonial machinery that grew it, leaving only a few scattered thorns as proof of its 4,000-kilometer reach.